Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to all we listeners them around the world. Today, na May 31st, 2026, Sunday, May 31st, 2026, the last day of the month. So we welcome you again for do the usual thing of listening to us and make whatever valuable contribution and go able to make in terms of suggestions, questions, and also we want to introduce, I will be a part introduction, and not necessarily get for introduce myself, as soon as the regular listeners, they want to know my name by now. This is Mohammed Shilon, with my regular co-host, Mr. Victor Mengot. We go again, introduce himself. We have a distinguished guest with we today, where I will make Mr. Mengot do the introduction of. So, but Mohammed Shilon coming to one from the state of North Carolina, USA. So normally, when I know the information they will can give as to the platform where would they use for Cantona and the platforms then would they carry we, as far as YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, where now then they call X, and the apps and so on. So let me just go over that very quickly. If we now catch you on the screen, or on television, or on YouTube, go on VOS television, Facebook, VOS television, X, when at the former Twitter, formerly called Twitter, now VOS television also. So you also can go to VOS website and dial and type in www.vostelevision.com. You will be able to find we on there. We also get a radio station in Freetown, where sometimes if you want to reach we on the radio, just in case you drive or you're in a position where you don't get your computer and your phone, but you want to listen to with Sunday broadcast or any VOS broadcast, then you can you will get for download the VOS app. And for download the VOS app, you have to go to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, download the app for be able to get through the radio station. And you're not going to get through the radio station unless you download the app. If you not download the app, you're not going to get through. And a 91.9 FM. So also we get what you can always bring to the attention of the listeners then, for say this now, we get what you call VOS Diaspora Helping Hands, and a non-profit organization organized and run by VOS for able students them, we not get the financial means, but then get the mental capacity for go school and do well in school, but they not get the financial means for continuing schooling. So they try to raise money for them and for be able to pay school fees, school supplies, and everything else. So, and that one is called vosdiaspora.org. If you want to go to the website, vosdiaspora.org. If you go there, you will be able to see and read and learn everything as to how the organization is run and how you go help if you care to. All right? So then we also supposed to get we WhatsApp number, which is the WhatsApp number, which is +1-343-997-5828, +1-343-557-997-5828. With that said, let me pass on over to Mr. Victor Mengot. We go take over and do the introduction of a distinguished guest today, and then we'll move forward. So, Mr. Mengot, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shilon, and thank you very much for our listeners. And Lord say today, viewers, we are privileged to have a very distinguished gentleman. As they can say, it better let him go tell you about himself in background. But what they can talk to it today now something very important. We know say the country, we don't go through a lot of trials and tribulations, and it is the duty of the government for protect the citizens, the people the way they rule we, the one the way they make law, also the one the way they dispense justice. So we don't go a long way since we National Peace Accord for Lome in 2002, where we introduced the Office of National Security. So from that time to now, changes don't take place in the security architecture. So today, before I say anything, thank you very much for honoring our invitation, Dr. P.K. Mwana. And we will say this is a first because we always open for let government people and can talk to we. Let not be saying no more, we just talk about government, will not give them the right for let them explain their position. Because after that, the government now we all own. They did it for protect we. So, ladies and gentlemen, here is Dr. P.K. Mwana. We go introduce himself and go take we straight through to this important aspect of we governance and security protection of our country. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shillon. Thank you very much, Mr. Mengot. Obviously, Mr. Mengot and I go way back in talking about Sierra Leonean issues, especially when it relates to governance. I want to thank listeners, and I want to thank, I really want to thank Mr. Cabo for being so patient in bringing me onto this platform and in hosting me. I've watched a few programs on Viewers TV regarding the State Protection Service, and I would like to clarify a few things for all the listeners, and I'm open to questions, and I'm open to any analysis, and I'm open to answering fully, and I wish to be as transparent as I can be. So please feel free to ask me any questions about the State Protection Service. I'm open to answering all of your questions.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Shillon, over to you.
No, I was just going to thank him. You go ahead.
No, I think for let people put up, because always when we talk, we say government and continuity. Because for me, while they do my program, I like for go now the back and come front. Because this whole thing started in 2002 when we will get the first national security bill, and that was part of the security sector reform project after we don't get boku problem in our country. And that reform project they look at security in three aspects. Now they will get the establishment of the Office of National Security. We also get the restructuring of the police. We also get the restructuring of the army. So it was necessary at the time, and we needed a focus on how to protect the leaders them and the country. Then fast forward where they do some research, I realized in 2017, after that 2002 day, there was a bill by the former government on this same security aspect, but I don't know whether it became law because I've not seen the enactment. Then we get to 2022, when in that 2022 day, 2023, thank you. Now I bring this national security bill overall with security system because things be not changed. We don't get boku layer, right? And then they lead to this one. So for start, I want to let you help with, first of all, your background of the laws them, why change was necessary. And we know say this new bill has been passed by Parliament, but we don't know yet waiting at the current status, because we know say any bill we pass in Parliament, for let it become law, we can forget presidential assent, right? And tell me who stage we there now before we go into this state protection service and what it stand for.
So let me just reinforce some of the points that you've already made. So number one, as you've indicated, the law itself is not a new law. It's a law that was enacted way back in 2003. And so it's a 23, 24-year-old law that's been in existence for 24 years. And all the core components of this particular bill, this 2026 National Security and Central Intelligence Act, all the core components are still the same core components that were in the initial bill 23, 24 years ago. So it is not a new law. So if anybody argues that we're bringing that this current government is bringing in a new law, that person may not be saying the whole truth. So that is number one. Second point, as you've indicated, this law was enacted 23 years ago as part of the security sector reform, security sector reform project, which was supported by partners, by the British, by the Americans, well, mainly by the Brits. And as you've indicated very clearly, what it do is it bring a comprehensive legal framework to national security structures, especially giving the ONS, the Office of National Security, Office of National Security, as a central coordinating and holding it, the way we will then work on all security measures, as well as for deal with all intelligence issues within the country at the time. In 2017, yes, there was a new one that was presented, but I never went through Parliament. In 2023, one went through Parliament, essentially again the same structure. And after 3 years, it has been necessary now let we look back at some of the gaps and try to address some of the gaps. And that is what this 2026 Act is doing with the State Protection Service. So now, let me speak specifically to what 2026 is doing for us, especially with the establishment of the State Protection Service. Now, this is not a Praetorian Guard or anything. This is a national security service that will serve government after government. It is not for any party, just like the U.S. Secret Service serves every government where they come since 1865 and since 1910, we didn't get that security mandate, or the Executive Protection Service in Liberia, which has been in existence since 1921, and we don't serve government after government, or the SSS in Nigeria, which has served successive governments since 1986, or in the case of the UK. So then they are bound, right? These kinds of services, VIP protection services, are bound right throughout the world. So let me speak specifically to the lacuna, to the gap we make it necessary let we create a legal framework for the State Protection Service. So President Ahmed Tijan, after he don't survive that coup, what he do was that he come up with his own VIP, or the British advisor for making introduce a VIP protection service. What he did was he took in a detachment of the police and then a detachment from the military, and had them in the server. Now, that detachment of the of the police, then go ahead, the Brits then go ahead and then train them. And then, they also create a close protection group. We're still in our OSD headquarters. But obviously, over the years, due to neglect, due to lack of training, lack of resources, that CPG group, they exist, but just as a shell. Then the military, they select members of the military and get them also for support, these guys. But the framework, the legal framework where they use, now what's in and called MACP, Military Aid to Civil Power, which is something that you can kick in only during times of emergency. You can call, the president can call on the military for, say, when I support the police for letting carry out law and order related security duties. That not be the framework where they bring in, where President Ahmed Tijan use. Now, President Ernest Bai Koroma come into power. He used the same framework. Yes, that same ACP. He gets a detachment of the police and a detachment of the army. But here's something that started developing, which really created this lacuna and this emergency, which is this. Where President Ernest Bai Koroma come into power, what he do is former party thugs, militants, ex-service people, he just bring them straight into the police. He give them ranks within the police, and then give them weapons, and then call them in close protection people. You guys would know some of those names already. I don't want to name names, but people know them already. And then he selects people from the military also. He bring them in. A bigger detachment from the military, bring them in as a Praetorian Guard of sorts. Still same under this Mark P. The issue with that is that any president when they come into power, they go come in and get in party thugs or even tribes people, put them into the police, give them weapons and say, when are they the enemy? Same thing again with the military. You can just turn around and handpick ethnicized, politicized soldiers, and then bring them around and say, hey, that's the detachment, this is Mark P, let's use it. There's a problem there. That problem there will not go able for solve them, especially for a country coming from war, will not go able for solve them as they move forward. Because what stops any president from doing that? Nothing. No legal something the way they stop them or way they hold them in, into a framework. Now, another element to all of this, the nature of threats to VIPs, it don't change completely. It don't change. First time, we were dealing with mainly, kinetic threats. We know someone is there, he has a weapon, he's going to attack the president, and then you need a few big bodies around him and a few big guns, and then they can frighten that person. But that's not how it works. You get AI mediated attacks. You get cyber mediated attacks. You get lone actors, people who sit there and they can craft and then attack any of these VIPs. You get terrorism now, the Sahel, where they come up. You get all sorts of new security threats where need a new set of skills. And that new set of skills, at the moment, I have worked with the military, I've worked with the police, and Sierra Leone has some of the finest men in the military as well as in the police. Their basic training, they speak to any of them kind of attacks they need. So we need people who get that level of training, they get that level of preparedness. We're ready for confronting and mitigate the risk to the VIPs. So these are some of the reasons we think are necessary, say, let's bring in the State Protection Service, a service where we'll serve not this one government, not this one party, not one person in interest, a service where we get legal clarity, we not get a legal lacuna where anybody go exploit, but one we go serve, which is politically neutral, which is highly trained, which is one that will serve not this government, the next government, but all governments right across, and where skills not go fade, because then skills them and resources and everything else where this particular service gets, we will continue. So there will be continuity across governments and through governments. So now some of the reasons then that we make are necessary for we introduce the State Protection Service. Obviously, other things will emerge, and I'll speak to that. But let me hold off for now.
Okay, before I bring in Mr. Shillon, so we'll take her in perspective. We know, say, Parliament been passed the bill, because I watched the full debate, subject to amendment, and then we know, say, whenever, at the time when they passed the bill, there was no opposition members in Parliament. I listened to the Parliament debate, they say, Ilraj, now one of the bodies that we sent, so who's are we there now? He don't get presidential assent? Because for anything to become law,
he not get presidential assent, but it has passed. Yeah. As you've stated very rightly, it go through Parliament, it go through pre-leg, it go through the first committee stage, second stage, first reading, second reading, and third reading. As a matter of fact, this particular bill, they get a certain level of scrutiny where most bills not they get at all. Most bills they go through the legislative committee alone. For this particular bill, the Speaker of Parliament decide for bringing, the defense and security, committee. He bring them in. He bring in the Internal Affairs Committee, and then he bring in the Legislative Committee. He put them all together in one room. He also listened to a number of, position statements. ILRAG sending, their own statements. Council of Chiefs, they're sending their own statements. A number of other people are sending their statements. Again, make a try for clarify this issue about whether opposition members of parliament were not aware. This particular bill, it was gazetted in January, 6 months ago now. It was gazetted 6 months ago. When it was gazetted, it was also gazetted a second time after 30 days, just like how the law said. Copies of this bill, they put under every member of parliament in Pigeonhole. So every APC member of parliament get this bill. None of them not ever come out and say they not ever see this bill. Before this bill, they go through all the stages in parliament. It just coincides, say, it meets the term when there was this disagreement about the national unity, tripartite thing, and they were not present in parliament. But then everybody was aware. As a matter of fact, the opposition leader, Abdul Kabo, don't indicate in an interview with the SLBC for say, yes, they read the bill. They even proffered their own personal views to him as their leader. And then in their wait for Meki put everything together and then present them publicly. So everybody was aware of this. As a matter of fact, there were also opportunities for let the APC members of parliament come back for let them discuss this particular bill before they pass them. So let me just speak to them. My understanding is that the moral guarantors, one of the proposals where the APC MPs they make to them was that we would like to be part of this conversation. And then the moral guarantors went back to the Speaker of Parliament and said specifically, these people wish to be part of this conversation. Can they be part of this conversation? And then the Speaker of Parliament said, yes, by all means, they should come back so we can all sit down together and discuss this law. So they got back to the APC opposition members of Parliament and asked them, when can you be in Parliament to discuss this bill? They said immediately. The moral guarantors went back to the Speaker of Parliament and said they will be here by the next sitting. Unfortunately, the next sitting came because the Speaker of Parliament even held this bill back. One sitting came, nobody showed up. A second sitting came, nobody showed up. They communicated with them and then they indicated that, hey, we should have come back. But the problem here is that we went out as a party, and until our party tells us to come back, we can't come back. There was a third sitting, which was on a Thursday, that went by again. The bill was not discussed. This bill was only discussed during the fourth sitting, when they had had 3 opportunities, and they had indicated to the moral guarantors that they would be present in Parliament. They were not. So they had an opportunity to not only give feedback, but also to be present in Parliament, and they opted to not be present in Parliament. Notwithstanding, as you may have watched, the bill was exhaustively discussed. As a matter of fact, the ruling party MPs were actually harshest on the bill. They dissected every part of that bill, every word, every letter, and they even added and they even put in some progressive elements. So, example, the 2003, 2017, 2023, they been get provision for let them just appoint people them where go serve na the process and the provincial security councils and the dissects. Now, what they insisted on that there should be a legal minimum for women. So you therefore bring women them into the security sector. for let them be able to support the security sector, because women's voices had been absent in each one of those committees. So, they spoke to that. They also added a few other elements to it. Initially, the bill being say, president, vice president, and the immediate families, chief justice, speaker. That's just the, just the governance heads. Now, then come on in and say, no. What about, and the deputy leaders of the opposition? So then bring them people and back into the bill and add them into the bill. So the State Protection Service will protect not only the leadership, the extant leadership, but also the opposition leadership itself. There's also a provision, and this is the understanding and the intent. There's also a provision for protecting not only government candidates, for presidents, but also opposition government candidates, opposition candidates for president may, yes, and obviously foreign heads of states and all of that, just as protocol permits. So there are a number of other elements, where they discuss and where they bring in that are progressive. Yeah, where they add to this particular bill. So the bill as it is in the draft form, they scratch a whole lot of things out of it and bring in a whole lot of new and progressive elements, which I think is good for the country, which I think is good for Sierra Leone and good for the future of Sierra Leone. Over to you.
Yes, Mr. Shillon, it's up to you now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just get one or two because I was listening very intently. I just want just let you clarify for we again, because Mr. Mengot he asked the question, is the bill legally a bill if it has not received presidential assent? And so that's the question we would like for you to clarify, because you want to know which one at the stage. We appreciate all the detail where you tell in terms of the efforts made by the ruling party for get the participation or involvement of others. But in terms of the legality of it, can it legally be referred to as a law, the law, or has the bill been assented to by the government, by the president to make it a law? That now, because you see, if we try for pass good laws.
Yeah, so let me speak to that if you don't mind.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I can speak to that if you don't mind. So, like how I indicate, the bill don't go through all the stages then. It don't go through all the stages then. First gazetting, second gazetting, first reading, second reading, third reading, committee stage, referral to committee stage, a third referral to the committee stage, debates, and then they don't pass the bill. Well, but when they don't pass the bill, to my mind, my understanding, the president not assented formally. So it is still a bill. It is not an act. It has not been passed into law because the president not signed it. So when the president signed formally, that is when it becomes law. To my understanding, as far as my understanding of parliamentary procedures go.
Okay. With respect to the first, second, third, fourth readings, my concern as a lawyer also is procedure are meant to be followed. They are just not meant to just use as just it. So in terms of the first, second, third readings, I am made to understand that the manner in which they were done, not consistent with parliamentary procedure. Mr. Mengot can address that much better than I can. Okay, so in terms of what has to be done when the first reading takes place, how much time has to lapse before the second reading takes place, then and so on. So my understanding is the time, the lapse of them time, then I think Parliament not follow them. They would kind of rush through. And in my humble opinion, if rules are not followed, then whatever result from their rules, then they will become somewhat defective So I just want to know, it may sound technical, but will you agree or disagree that all rules, some rules were skipped over, or maybe that's the wrong information with the public, or wrong question would they ask you?
So my understanding is that opposition members of parliament have not quibbled with the procedure. Opposition members of parliament have not quibbled with the outcome. Opposition members of parliament have not quibbled with the process itself. What they've said over and over and over in several interviews right across board is not that the procedure was wrong, is not that the timing was wrong, is not that the outcome is wrong, it is not that the law is not a good law. What their argument is that the Speaker of Parliament should have afforded them more time for letting come back to Parliament, for letting be part of the conversation around the bill. But nothing was rushed. My understanding is that nothing was rushed. It was done according to what is laid down on the laws of Sierra Leone. It was gazetted accordingly. After gazetting, you have to wait for 30 days for the law to mature. And then you publish it again in the Gazette. And then after that, you do pre-legislation. For pre-legislation, before pre-legislation happens, you need to ensure that every member of parliament has a copy of that bill. And as far as my understanding goes, every member of parliament got a copy of that bill. After that, all the stages of passing that bill, those were televised. They were on live television. So every stage was on live television from beginning to end. So first reading was on live television, second reading was on live television, third reading was on live television. Until they passed the bill, everything, every word, every phrase was on live television. So there was total transparency around the process. And my understanding, there are no questions about whether procedures were followed or the time lapse was not right, or no. I mean, as far as I know, everything was done correctly.
All right. If I may ask another question. You cite Liberia, the US, many other countries in terms of Secret Service protection for leaders. The intent sounds very noble and very good. And but the question I want to ask is, when we make that comparison today, that takes me fast forward to the appointment of the various committees. Then will go more or less in charge. Every bit, every aspect seemed to be exclusively within the ambit of the president. Don't you think that's allotting the president too much power? This has nothing to do with the current government. It's just a matter of, if you want for past law, we would stand the test of time. And if the intentions are good, so one government will come and change the structure all the time. Shouldn't we have and because the protection is about the president and vice president and some other top dignitaries. So why give them the power for pick who has to do then things there in terms of the committee and the flexibility we then get for dispose of some of these members, as far as I understand the bill, as they feel, as the president feels. And if you go back, you read what you mean. Go ahead.
Yeah. So let us have this conversation. Yeah. So let us have this conversation. As it is in the laws of Sierra Leone, the president has ultimate power to appoint the chief of defense staff, the inspector general of police, and the head of the Office of National Security, as well as the heads of all agencies. That's the nature of the beast. That's what we have in our 1991 Constitution. As to that, I wouldn't question Because even in the United States of America, which is the bastion of democracy, the president has powers to appoint not only the head of the Secret Service, the head of the FBI, the head of the military. I mean, you know better, Mr. Schiller, right? So, I mean, if at all we're talking about that element, then probably we should, because clearly it is, I don't think we should be alarmed about that. Now, what we should be alarmed about, and which is what this bill addresses, is that are we going to have a situation in the future where we will have people who are predominantly from one ethnic group or from one or people who are particular political party? Another government will feel as if, hey man, we don't want to be protected by these guys. We don't feel comfortable being protected by these guys. Will that be the case? Well, that is what this bill tries to address. And the way this bill addresses that is simple. Number one, the process of recruitment. The process of recruitment has to be politically neutral, and it has to be open, transparent, and auditable. We've already undertaken one particular set of cohorts, which is the original cohort. And this is what, and let me just describe the process, and then viewers can then make their minds up about what they understand about the process. So with the police, the Inspector General of Police puts out a general advertisement. People apply. When they apply, they get interviewed by a panel. And that's a panel of senior police officers as well as trainers. They interview them. After the first interview, then they put them through a psychological test. After the psychological test, then they'll do a background check to check whether these people are associated with politics, whether they've said things on social media or done things on social media that may be untoward. They check all of that. Then after that, they'll send them through for their medical checks. Then they do the medical checks. And after the medical checks, they bring them in for integrity, situational judgment, awareness, and ethical decision-making tests. They'll run them through the gamut. Once they run them through that gamut, if they pass, whoever survives, then they'll do a PT, a test of physical fitness. After that test of physical fitness, whoever survives the test of physical fitness, those guys get into the training itself. The training is by continuous assessment. What does that mean? You take the first module. If you pass the first module, then you can go to the second module. You fail the first module, you're out. Then they move to the second module, all the way through to the end. After you finish that, you will then go through a process of probation. And that process of probation means that you are going to be closely watched for all sorts of reasons. Whether you're actively involved in politics, whether you say certain things, even when you fraternize. The only two languages at the moment that can be used for fraternizing in the SPS are Creole, which is our national liquor, and English. If you use any local language for any reason or for fraternizing, you can be thrown out of the SPS. If you align yourself, you wear any political colors, you speak politics, if you participate in any political meetings or in any medium, if you pronounce or identify yourself with a political position, you can be thrown out of the SPS. And the SPS has a code of conduct, which is the blue book. The code of conduct takes in the 47 rules of the police and the regulations of the military, combines them and modernizes them. And that's the code of conduct. That code of conduct makes members of the SPS accountable at a horizontal level. In addition to that accountability at the horizontal level, there's also the SPS committee, which comprises the National Security Coordinator, the IG, the CDS, the head of intelligence, and a number of other stakeholders. That committee oversees not only the operations, but also supervises actively the daily activities of the SPS. In addition to that, there's also the National Security Council, which that SPS committee is again accountable to. In addition to the National Security Council, the SPS committee again, according to all, according to some of the additions that were done in Parliament, the SPS is also accountable to Parliament. If a parliamentarian feels, for instance, that the SPS has gone beyond its mandate, they can summon the SPS to Parliament and ask questions, just as they do in the US when the Senate calls up the head of the FBI to ask him questions about the activities of the FBI or of the US Secret Service. In addition to that, there's also a provision here, which is Part 9, for a complaints tribunal, meaning that of the SPS are also accountable, to the law and to legal processes, right? And so there's this horizontal level of accountability, and there's a vertical level of accountability. Far more scrutiny and more accountability than any one security force existing in Sierra Leone at this point in time. So I really wouldn't worry about accountability. That's the least of the problems that people should be worrying about when it comes to the SPS, as far as I know.
Yeah, but what I'm very impressed because it's very exhaustive requirement. In fact, it would be remarkable if anyone or a lot of people qualify for all the requirements you just make, which is great, very stringent. That's the way it should be.
So in fact, let me add something. Let me add something without taking away your trend of thought.
No.
We had 242. We had 242 applicants for the first cohort. After the interviews done by the police exclusively, we had about 141 left. After 141, they did the background checks, test by integrity, and ethical decision making. They did all of that. We had 72 left. Out of that 72, they sent them for medical. 60 survived. Out of that 60, on Tuesday, those guys are going in for their test of physical fitness. So we already have what I call a 60% attrition rate, more than 60% attrition rate, just in that process. So what we get is the finest of the finest Sierra Leoneans, and we're looking at Sierra Leoneans who are sharp, young, who are capable of making good decisions for the country. Not people who are tainted by politics, not people who are coming in as, who are coming in as political thugs. But we're bringing in people who can represent Sierra Leone, who can go out there and be trained by those foreign services, and people who can come back into Sierra Leone and transfer that knowledge and bring in that expertise and work in a very professional way in Sierra Leone. Looking for. We have a rudimentary service existing, which I head. We've received quite a number of heads of state. There's the Premier of China who came in. There's the President of Senegal who came in, and quite a number of others. And they were highly impressed with the service that we gave. We had no resources, we had very limited resources, but the professionalism that they saw, because of how people conducted themselves, because of how our operational orders were set, they were highly impressed. As a matter of fact, Sierra Leone is going to host ECOWAS, the ECOWAS Summit. That is coming up in July. And already when they came for the first assessment, when we laid out our workflow, when we laid out everything that we're going to be doing for that, they said to us very clearly, it's not only outstanding, it is unprecedented, and that they've never seen that level of copious decision making and planning. It's never been there. So I think we have good Sierra Leoneans who can do good work for Sierra Leone, and this is a matter of national service. And I want Sierra Leoneans to believe and to know and to understand that there are good Sierra Leoneans who are ready to serve Sierra Leone in the best way possible. And those are the Sierra Leoneans who we should bring into this service, who can serve Sierra Leone without a political lens, but focused on the good of Sierra Leone, on the reputation of Sierra Leone, on what is good for Sierra Leone. And that is what we're looking for. Sorry about the interruption earlier.
No. Please feel free.
Now,
That's
Mr.
why we're
Stewart, before you go further, I just want to make one quick point, right? And it's very important. If, as we've already said, we've started, that it's still a bill, it's not no longer the law, it's not yet the law. How come all these processes and systems are now put in place when there's no law that gives legitimacy to the SPS? Because when I looked at the bill,
So
the 2023
yeah,
bill,
so what we have right now,
and
so
the
what
new
we have
one,
right now,
the only difference
so what we have right
is this
now,
inclusion of
Yeah.
the SPS.
correct. So what we have right now is the JPJF, the Joint Presidential Guard Force that was put in place, by President Ernest Bai Koroma. That's what we have in place right now. They had, all respect to them, but there was no doctrine. Yes, very few or no operational orders, no comprehending modules or program. They would just extract people, give them a few guns, and then tell them, hey, follow this guy up and down the place. Yes, what the SPS is going to be bringing in, and what we've brought in for the last 8 years, is we've brought in a doctrine. We've brought in SOPs. We've brought in not only those operational orders and procedures, but we've also brought in a certain level of professionalism. So you can see that there are fewer incidents of people taking the law into their own hands, or people doing things, or people acting in unprofessional ways. So that's what we've been trying to build, in as much as we're trying to get this legal framework and legal clarity around this MACP thing, so that that process of transitioning is easy. Well, it is easier if you have a rudimentary group of professionals around whom you can build all of this, right? So it is easier. So we're not going to wait for the law to come in first, and then from that point we'll start, taking the first teetering steps, and then running around the place, to find. No. Let's get this moving on the truck. Let us chew gum and walk, because this is good for Sierra Leone. So that once the law passes and then gives us that legal framework and that legal backing, we can then escalate and expand and then move forward. And that's the idea.
All right. Okay, what stops a succeeding government from setting aside all what you describe so and implementing your own? So what framework is in place? Since we're trying to, because sounds very impressive. I mean, this is very sophisticated what you've described, but we have to think in terms of posterity or the future. So if we're going to do that, now we have to be passing laws that no other government could just come and easily set aside. So my question now is, question number one, listening to you, I want you to be on the go right now doing what you just described, because you sound extraordinarily competent for the job, as far as I'm concerned. All right? So what is there to stop the president, if he's not pleased with you for whatever reason, to just sack you? What's safeguards in place?
So again, that's the nature of the beast. That's the 1991 Constitution. It gives the president supreme authority and powers to do anything, right? So he can come in. It gives him powers over life and death, and you know that. As a lawyer, you know that very well.
Yeah.
What I would say is, at least there's a legal framework, and that legal framework lays out clearly what is needed for whoever is going to be my successor. And if that president, if an incoming president, whether it's from the SLPP or the APC, feels like, because I have done this work professionally and in an apolitical manner, and he feels like I should continue my service, I will continue my service. I'm serving Sierra Leone. So this is what the SPS is about. The SPS is not serving an individual. The SPS is serving an office. So the SPS is going to be serving the president of Sierra Leone. not Julius Maada Bio or not his successor or anybody else. So once he goes out of the way, he's out of the way. The SPS for conserving the president of Sierra Leone. And so this is so it is really about not only goodwill, but also good thinking and good critical sense. And I would just love to implore whoever comes in or whoever does not come in, look at Sierra Leoneans who are doing the best professional service to Sierra Leone, keep them and continue working with them. I think that's been a problem. People have politicized everything at all sorts of levels. We see very competent Sierra Leoneans, we see good Sierra Leoneans who know what they're talking about, who we know have the skills, but yet we still set them aside. Why? Because they don't belong to a particular ethnic group, or they don't belong to or you know, they don't have the same political mindset. Mr. Mengot can easily tell you about a particular situation in which he needed to speak to the president about something, and people had not been facilitating that. I held his hands and I took him to the president because I believe that someone like Mr. Mengot, who's as highly qualified, highly experienced, needs to have a one-on-one with the president and sit with him and tell him, these are the plans for Sierra Leone. This is what is good for Sierra Leone. He can attest to that himself.
I think we've got some comments. Let's read these comments because we know you don't have much time now. If Mr. Shillon, if we can read the comments, let you respond to the people. I don't see one or two.
Okay, if I will ask the control room for just put them in sequence so I can read them, so I can answer them. I don't know if we. Okay, let me read this one in front of me. This monologue means that he will be presenting a flawless bill. I don't know who he is. What institution in that country isn't influenced by politics? They keep behaving like as if they will never leave power on its own, whatever that means. So I'm not sure. I read it. Sometimes it's kind of hard to read this, but let me read it one more time. This monologue means that he will be presenting a flawless bill. What institution in that country isn't influenced by politics? They keep behaving like they will never leave power. So that's one comment.
Again, like I said, I love Sierra Leone.
Let him read the other one.
I love Sierra Leone.
Read the other one so you can get right to reply.
Yeah, let me just read them all for you.
Okay, sure. Okay.
You have to understand that there is a change of government. If there's a change of government, it could be scrapped. So what happens then? Next one. Next one. Control room, next one. The next question. All right. The opposition was in there, which gives you the perfect opportunity to pass the bill. Isn't that right? However, if the tables were turned, would you have accepted? So I think that's enough. So, Mr. Dr. Moana, you can just respond to those three from our audience.
Yeah, with regard to suspicions that everything is influenced by by politics, that's a matter of opinion. I mean, I can't address that. I can't stop someone from thinking that everything is affected by politics in Sierra Leone. I can't stop anyone from thinking like that. All right. What I believe is that if there's a good idea, and that good idea is going to serve Sierra Leone, I think we should embrace it without suspicion and without certain levels of scrutiny that probably we really shouldn't be holding on to. The second question is whether it can be scrapped. If it's a law, then there's a certain process for changing laws in Sierra Leone. If that process is followed and they have a 2/3 majority to change the law, by all means, then they should. But I don't see how the State Protection Service is going to be offensive to any government in Sierra Leone or for any reason. It's not that the State Protection Service is going to be used to arrest people or to lock people or to snoop in on people or anything like that. I mean, the military is still going to be doing its job of doing, territorial protection and sovereignty. The police is still going to be doing its job of public order and then public enforcement. The IIS, FISU, CISA to be doing their work of intelligence. All that the State Protection Service is going to be doing is to mitigate risks. It is to limit the possibility of an attack on those principles who the law says that the State Protection Service should protect. Nothing else. That's all they do. They're not going to be arresting people. They're not going to be grabbing people or kicking people or running around the place. The State Protection Service in its rudimentary form has existed for a lot of years, and nobody knows who we are. I'm sure Mr. Mengot never even realized that I was leading the State Protection Service. Where people, I wouldn't say, for instance, everybody's above board, but I know that personally, my integrity speaks a lot from me, right? I come from a background, of academia. Taught at various universities, worked with this government for the longest time, and I'm one of those people. I'm there for the good of Sierra Leone. And so the idea here is, this is an idea that is good for Sierra Leone. Should we push it forward? Yes, I think we should push it forward. I think we should move it forward. I am sure that when President Abraham Lincoln brought in the idea of the Secret Service back in 1865, there are some congressmen or some opponents who actually thought, some Americans who thought this is not good for for America. But over 130 years or 150 years later, everybody believes that it is good for America, right? And so to that idea, let us probably share that idea. But there's a third question that came up, and that third question has to do with I think my thoughts have slipped a little bit. What was it exactly? If you can remind me.
Well, there is one
The third question.
I don't know if it's the same thing. It's a question, but that may not have been what I asked you because I don't remember. But there's another one. I was just trying not to bore you with so much. This one says, could you be more specific about how this SPS will be financed when our armed forces lack resources in strengthening, especially in the various military wings, like the Army, Navy, and Air Force? That's another question.
Right. So let me speak to two things. I can't speak to how the Army is going to be financed, the Navy, Air Force, and all of that. I have absolutely no knowledge about how those guys are financed. I know they're financed from the consolidated bill. What I also know is that the current people who are protecting the president, who are on secondment from the police and from the military, that they're being financed from the consolidated fund. Yeah, if they're and the SPS is going to be drawing on that same consolidated fund. We're not bringing foreigners into the SPS. We're not bringing people who are going to be like fat cats into the SPS. The SPS is going to be comprised. The SPS is going to be composed of police officers and militaries who will be on secondment into the SPS. As the SPS expands, we will think about bringing in individuals, young graduates, professionals, both in Sierra Leone and from the diaspora, who have certain exceptional skills. We can bring them into the service itself. So it is not about whether we're going to create a new wage bill. It's going to be drawn from the same dated revenue fund. Let me make things clear. Every president is going to find a way of protecting himself. If the state consolidated fund does not help him to protect himself, what most presidents, as we've seen in some other countries, will resort to doing, they'll bring in foreign mercenaries. They will also, in addition to that, not only bring in foreign mercenaries, but they'll also create an auxiliary force that will be paid for by their friends or by themselves. And I think that is a very negative way of going for Sierra Leone. What strengthens our democracy is we have a clear pathway of financing a security service from the consolidated fund. Their accounts will be audited every year. Parliament is going to be voting on their budget. There's a very clear pathway about how they use their funds and about what they're going to be using it for. So I don't think we should be worried about that. I don't really think that's a problem that we should be worried about.
Okay, last but not least, going back to the power of the presidency, which is what I'm always very concerned with, because we have to look beyond ourselves, our parties in power, our friends in power. And then you reference the 1991 Constitution, which is a terrible constitution by all accounts, but we don't have to deal with that right now. But so I don't want us to treat our 1991 Constitution as the best of constitutions we've ever seen, because there are a lot of things in that Constitution that ought not to be in it. So, but I'm not necessarily asking you to direct it, but I just don't want that to be the model for future amendments to our Constitution, because the thing here is we already know there's too much power in the hands, because remember now, let's just deal with the brief history here. The 1991 Constitution was drawn, I know, by the APC, believing that power will never change hands. And it did. And you guys have had the best of what APC left, in the sense that the laws are in place, President Bill just implements them legally, constitutionally, perfectly. He's right. But that doesn't mean that's the best example we should follow, because we should be able to look at certain requirements, aspects of the Constitution, and say, this is not good for the future. So the reason why I asked the thing about so much power being vested in the presidency, because after all these guardrails, just one man can just decide, for whatever reason, to just get rid of someone at the top, or to just scrap everything you just described. That was worries me. I'm just hoping we can put more thought into how to set more guardrails for the future. So I'm not trying to.
So I get your point, and I understand your point. Let me speak to this briefly. The late Justice Cowan started off the process of the constitutional review process. That made certain recommendations, drew up a white paper, and I think President Ernest Bai Kromah didn't push that through into Parliament. I think President Bill has started that process. I don't know the details. Like I said, I'm not a legal expert. I'm not a constitutional expert. I'm a professor of English, and with probably 23 years of experience, in security. I've been serving the president for the last 8 years. And that's what it is. But with regard to the constitutional provisions, are there things that I wish for were in the Constitution? Yes. Are there things that I believe are probably odious or not clear, need to be clarified? I think yes. I also give a lot of credit to this government that successive governments have made efforts at creating new laws that have enhanced our Constitution in ways in which may well be progressive and may be positive. That's open to debate. What I think we're focusing on as Sierra Leoneans is we should all come together and take a look at the 1991 Constitution. See if 35 years later, whether the 1991 Constitution serves our purpose. That's the best Constitution for the next 50 years. If the answer is yes, by all means, keep it. But for me, personally, I don't think the answer is yes. I think we should take a second look at it, scrutinize it very well, subject it to really, really stringent, critical thinking, and perhaps vote on or bring in, constitutional reform that is good for the future of Sierra Leone. I mean, that's my personal belief. So I'm with you. Should we take another look at 1991 Constitution? The answer is hell yes, by all means.
Thank you. Mr. Mengo, back to you. I don't want to dominate.
One final question.
I've used up the professor's time, so please go ahead and ask a few before you get upset.
No, I think we appreciate
anything.
his clarification. One of the things I want him to clarify, two things for us, finally, because you have people who are the beneficiaries of this state protection service, which is closed market. I remember listening to the parliamentary debate, and some MPs suggested that those who will be protected have the choice of selecting who will protect them. Is that still the case among the chosen? And why is that the case? Then, how often do you review the standard operating procedures of the protection service in terms of what are your roles and responsibility? You say it's under scrutiny, but also finally, I know it's a loaded one. In this bill, I don't know whether that's directed to the state protection service. Some members of the security service are immune from prosecution for acts of either omission or willful submission. Would that same protection apply to the SPS in carrying out their duty?
Okay, so let me speak to all three of them. So number one, in the United States, there are certain dignitaries for whom mandatory proximate service is provided by the U.S. Secret Service. So if you're president, if at all you're president, you're vice president, you don't have an option. You are going to be protected by the U.S. Secret Service, whether you like it or not. So that's mandatory protection. Now, for the other categories, just as in the case of Sierra Leone, a former head of state may opt to say, I do not wish to be protected state protection service. In which case, you sign off. You don't wish to be protected by state protection service, which is all good. That document is going to be presented to Parliament through National Security Council to Parliament to say this, Mr. Mengot, who is former Speaker of Parliament, has decided that he does not wish to be protected by the State Protection Service. What that does for the State Protection Service is, if anything happens to you, or anything happens, by the way, the State Protection Service cannot be blamed, which means you've opted to protect yourself, which is well and good. And if that's right, and I think there was a lot of debate around that particular provision, because some people insisted that, hey, no, it should be mandatory right across board. But then people are saying no. The bill that is going to be going to the president for assent is that mandatory protection for certain categories, and some other categories probably no mandatory protection. So you can elect to not be protected by the State Protection Service if you're like a former speaker or like a former Chief Justice. You may elect to not be protected by the State Protection Service, which is well and good. With regard to the other issues, are you talking about the procedures, the doctrine, about training, and about some other operational issues relating to the State Protection Service? Is that what it is? Because if that's my understanding, then
I think immunity from prosecution for abuse of power. I think that's what he's talking about. Yeah.
Yes, I have to ask the third question, and then I'll come to that soon.
Okay.
With regard to that second question, operational orders. So the work of the SPS is informed by threat analysis. So threat analysis meaning there is a clear and present danger to this particular protection, in which case the State Protection Service can anticipate, prevent, or mitigate the risks to that particular protectee. So, job, or are there operational orders fixed in stone? No, they're not. They're obviously very much malleable, they're open, and they're very much flexible. So the State Protection Service operationally is very, very flexible, and it is responsive to threats anticipated, perceived, seen. So clearly that's the case. Then there's a third question. The third question, and this has excited a lot of debates, and I like the fact that you've actually brought this up, Mr. Mengot, which is the good faith provision. The good faith provision says that whilst they're doing their duties, that members of the State Protection Service, if they act in good faith, this is a good faith. You just need to look across the laws of Sierra Leone to see that you have good right across. The ACC has a good faith in its law, in the ACC Act. The FIA, that's the Financial Intelligence Agency, there's a good faith provision, the same word-for-word provision, good faith provision. The Auditor General, Central Bank, head of the National Health Agency, banking, police, the security services, the intelligence services. Good faith provisions are provisions that do not make people not accountable to the laws of Sierra Leone. What they're saying is that if you maliciously injure someone, injure someone whilst you're doing your work, if you do something fraudulent, if you cause certain things that are not in line with the law, you can be prosecuted. You will be prosecuted because that's not part of your duty. So your duty is not to go out there and offend someone in the way in which you end up beating that person up. That is not part of that's not part of your job. But our good faith may kick in, for instance, in a situation, and let me just describe the scenario in which, for instance, let's say Mr. Schiller is a visiting head of state and he's in Sierra Leone and he's talking to President Bill in a room, and then Mr. X, let's call him Mr. James, comes to all the security officers and wishes to rush in with a bag into that room. And the security forces stop him. And in the process, there's a scuffle in which Mr. James gets injured. And then Mr. James then wishes to push a case in court for injury that he may have suffered in trying to access that room in which Mr. Schiller and President Bio were having that conversation. In that particular case, the good faith provision kicks in. And how it kicks in is, no, they cannot be prosecuted because they did what they did in good faith. In line with their job, which is to protect whoever is clearly designated as their protectee. So those good faith provisions are all over the laws of Sierra Leone. They are all over the Commonwealth. They're there. You just need to look at those laws that I've referred to. The ACC Commissioner, the Auditor General, the Bank Governor, the head of the National Protection Agency. So for instance, if there's something like COVID, or if there's something like Ebola, and the head of the National Public Health Agency determines that the movement of people from one place to the may not be the best thing to do, then he may well go ahead and then instruct people who are in service to the National Public Health Agency to say, this is a constitutional right, but in this particular case, you can limit people from moving from Moamba district into Bon district or into Bo district. So then you can file suit against the National Public Health Agency for limiting your right to move from one place to the other. In that particular case, he has done that in good faith, and therefore he is immune from all lawsuits relating to particular action of his. So that's what this good faith provision is all about. It is a blanket immunity law. It is It is not something, it is not something that says that if you do something malicious, if you do something fraudulent, if you do something in which you deprive other people, of their right to life, if you do something in your personal capacity that you can be prosecuted. No, you will be prosecuted. You can be prosecuted. First of all, you'll be thrown out of the, you can't be a member of the SPS if at all you act in those kinds of, in those kinds of ways. But if you act in good faith, then, with regard to some of those instances that I've pointed out, then clearly you are protected. Beyond that, though, there is also provision for a complaints tribunal. There's also provision for a parliamentary hearing. There's also provision for you to make a report to the SPS committee. There's also provision for you to take it up with, certain competent agencies. So. Clearly, I don't see any reason for alarm when it comes to that particular provision.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chilon. Over to you.
No, I was just going to say the good faith. I'm trying to figure out the way the laws are written. Does the presumption that one is acting in good faith means the person who feels aggrieved cannot institute legal action against the presumed offender, or is it the courts, which I think it should be the courts to determine what good faith is actually is, and I think it's the courts, the factual situation would determine good faith or bad faith, don't you think? Because the same example you gave.
So, like you said, you are the experts in this case. So, in the example I gave, nothing can stop Mr. James from, securing your services as a lawyer to file suit for injury and for causing what he may refer to as grievous bodily harm. Now. If there is no provision like that within the law itself, then those individuals who may have caused that bodily harm within the process of exercising those duties may be liable, clearly. But if the courts determine that what they did was not excessive, that they had not used force excessively, and that grievous or that bodily harm was occasioned by your intent to illegally access a secure location, if the court determines that and the court takes a look at that legal provision, then the court may well, and I'm not predicting what the court would do, the court may well say, hey, we're throwing this out of court because these people were doing what they do in line with what the law says. So that's a different territory for me. Yeah, different territory for me because I'm not a lawyer. However, I would think as a Sierra Leonean, that is what the courts would do in that particular case. It wouldn't stop any individual Sierra Leone from filing suits. You may file suits. You can file suits. You should file suits. However, the courts will then, in the fact matter, relative to those actions and the law and the extant law, which said that if you're acting within your mandate, then, and you're acting with good faith, and you've not used force excessively, then probably the courts can excuse you. So, well, let me leave that to the legal people, and let me leave that to more competent people like you, Mr. Shillon.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your time.
Yes, sir.
I wish we see more of you.
No problem.
Yeah. Mr. Mengot?
Just one thing, sir.
I am.
Thank you very
Mr.
much for
Mengot, to
coming.
tell you, I'm camera shy. I'm not one of those who likes the press. But I just wanted to come on and clarify this on a medium that I have a lot of respect for, and where I have as hosts, Sierra Leoneans who I've listened to, who I've watched severally, and for whom I have a lot of respect. So I So, I mean, I thank you for the opportunity of, clarifying these issues and laying bare what the State Protection Service is all about.
Thank you very much, sir. Just one last thing. I hope with the SPS in its efficiency, reduce the presidential convoy. And also, I hope you will extend to your colleagues in government that more of them are invited to our platform. Encourage them to come. Let's discuss and make sure our listeners are able to clarify issues of technical, because as we work here, Mr. Shillon is a legal man, and as you know, my own area is to do with parliamentary rules and procedure and governance. So we thank you very much. So I hope to see a reduction of the presidential convoy.
So let me speak to what the convoy is all about. So the convoy is a functional movement of DV through certain threat areas, right? So with the convoy, there are pilot vehicles. Those vehicles will ensure that the pathway that the VIP is using is clear. So clearly we can move those out of the convoy. There are escort bikes. Those bikes will indicate where there may be threats along the road, like stalled vehicles, certain intersections. I mean, you do see that even in America, right? They can stop people at those intersections or stop traffic at those intersections in order to provide a safe pathway. Then there's the VIP vehicle and there are the security vehicles. Of course, we can move those out of the convoy. Sometimes what you get is that after the ambulance and all the other security vehicles, there are those people who are called falafala people who think that who just want to take it of the of the presidential convoy. They turn their hazard lights on and they chase the convoy. and they just run through traffic, as a consequence of that. Is that legal? It is illegal. People should not be doing that. People really should not be doing that, because what if there's an attack on the convoy? Then you're exposing yourself to danger. You really should not be doing that at all. But people do that in Salon. You will find probably like 10, 15 vehicles chasing the presidential convoy, and they have nothing. And that's what they do all the time. People do that in Salon all the time. So just to bring to your attention, what you see is not really Mada Bio's convoy. It's the people who are the falafala people. That's who they are.
All right,
and some of them could be ministers and deputy ministers. Anyway, let's leave you to go. Thank you very much.
Hey,
we do hope that we'll get more of this time.
That's about my favorite, because I've never stopped their vehicles to look in. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
That's about my favorite, because I've never stopped their vehicles to search and see who's in those vehicles. Yeah.
You get a point.
But what I know is that some of those vehicles that follow the president's convoy are not supposed to be part of that convoy.
Yeah.
Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you so much, Dr. Moana. Come again. Please.
No problem, sir. No problem, sir.
And encourage others
Very happy
in the
to.
government.
Very happy to. Yes, sir.
Please
Yes, sir.
encourage others to join us.
Hey, like I said, I am media shy. I just wanted to come on here to clarify things and to be part of this conversation and part of this platform, and to ensure that Sierra Leoneans in country and also in the diaspora understand what the State Protection Service really is, and to understand that the State Protection Service is not led by a few select thugs or people who are just President Bill has picked up from the streets and who's just trying to, carry out his justice bidding. The State Protection Service is led by a Sierra Leonean, and that's why I've presented myself, a Sierra Leonean who has a fairly good idea, and I'm not praising myself, who has a fairly good idea of what the country needs, and who's very patriotic and who wants to move this country forward in all sorts of ways, and who believes in the supremacy of public service in Sierra Leone. So thank you so very much to listeners. Thank you to the hosts, to the co-hosts, and I thank Mr. Kagbo. Mr. Kagbo, Sorry that I couldn't connect early on, but I thank you for your patience and I thank you for creating this platform. I think it is a good place for dialogue. It's a good site for dialogue, and it's good for Sierra Leone as a whole. And I'll encourage other Sierra Leoneans, to join this platform and to do what needs to be done in clarifying issues and in helping other Sierra Leoneans understand what we're all about in Sierra Leone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hope to see you soon. All right, control room.
Okay, boss. All right.
Thanks a lot, Doc.
Hasta la próxima vez. All right. Okay, sir. All right. I'll leave now.
Okay, thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've had a good discussion, but one issue we want to talk about, and I think Control Room has that, which is the second part we want to come to on this our show tonight, is this issue of the recent arrangement between the United States government and the Sierra Leone government for the repatriation of third-party nationals. But to put it in context, we always do things here based on evidence approach. I think Control Room can play a video for us in which the foreign minister was interviewed, courtesy of Truth Media, so we can talk about these issues and how procedures should be followed in such an important treaty. Control Room, over to you, sir.
I'm coming to the point of benefits directly.
Yes.
Are we doing this because we are assured that the visa ban will be lifted, or it's just to please the U.S. government that we want LEONE do this for we?
We are not.
What's in we bargain on? What the bargaining?
We are a sovereign state, an independent state in conscience, an independent state in practice. We are not pleasers of any particular country. The United States, like I say, for example, there's an increased investment in the economy of this country.
Mr. Minister, the U.S. they invest in other African countries.
But I care about no. But
so why not send the citizens there?
I'm coming. Let's don't sentimentalize this. Yes, I don't want to talk about what the U.S. does in other countries. Let's focus on Sierra Leone. I'm the Minister for Foreign Affairs for the Republic of Sierra Leone, not for Sierra Leone and other countries.
But I'm reflecting because you're talking about investment.
Yes,
I'm saying there are huge investments in other African countries. Take Nigeria, for example. Take Ivory Coast.
Well, Nigeria by dimension is bigger than Sierra Leone. Nigeria by population and economy is bigger.
Yeah, so if they want to send citizens, why not Nigeria?
Let me focus in terms of benefits. And because the analogy we try for construct here is, if other countries don't have benefit, why wouldn't the United States propose or take, third country nationals to those countries?
Yeah.
Let's focus on why I say, I don't just tell you say there's increased investment in this country. Perhaps since after the Bumbuna project, the present investment by the DFC into the energy sector is one of the biggest we don't see since after the end of the war.
Mr. Minister, land came before land came before even President Trump in tenure. Land project has been on with this government, the previous government, and this government, even before President Trump. And even
what we're dealing with right now is not a President Trump's policy. It's a policy of the United States and an agreement with the Republic of Sierra Leone, not Timothy Kaba, not the government of any individual, but the Republic of Sierra Leone. So let's focus on that, and it's that being established. Let's come out to the investment. We have seen increased investment. NANT may have been here for many years, but the deployment of huge capital, there was a bottleneck on this project. When I was Minister of Mines, I was quite much au fait. And when this bottleneck was broken, I was Minister of Foreign Affairs. I got consulted. I sat in the cabinet that discussed and gave the fiat to the Minister of Energy and all those MDAs that were involved with the enhancement of the progress of this particular project. In the mining sector, in many other sectors of the economy, the United States, in the health sector, recently we saw millions of dollars being deployed into the health sector, and thanks to President Bio and with very pragmatic and progressive Minister of Health, who is translating this investment into really tangible changes in the health sector in our country. So with all of this particular agreement is not a direct quid pro quo. It is, in a way, considering the constraint of an important bilateral partner and the need on we own part as well for play we own role in the safety of ECOWAS citizens who could be kept in detention in the United States because they may not have altogether the fiat or the diplomatic go ahead for taking people here, go into the countries of origin. They will be in detention. Children, mothers, fathers, and all of these folks. If we provide a quick reaction for bringing ECOWAS citizens down asylum on a transitory basis, in most cases, for getting people here for calm, we process the documents, provide for them psychosocial, relief, and all of those things, and help them for going to the countries of origin. I think that, under international law, is an obligation that is performed with a high sense of morality.
Okay, Mr. Shillong, do you want to come in, or for the benefit of our listeners, let we put all this in context?
Yes,
then
sir.
you can ask the question.
What I don't seem to understand that the minister is saying is, it is because I think he just say it is not President Trump's policy, it is the policy of the United States. I beg to differ. It is Trump's policy being done in the name of the United States. But when acts of these types are done or executed, normally the president in power, whose policy it is. So I beg to differ with the minister. Secondly, I would like to know, because the video doesn't deal with it, but what we heard was that Sierra Leone was given $1.5 million, which I always claim, in terms of governmental stature, $1.5 million for a government is like $15 or even less than $15 to an individual. I don't think any country should gladly receive $1.5 million from the US or from any country, because to me, that is tantamount to an insult. Now, I may have had a change of mind if they say they give away $1.5 billion. That could do a lot of stuff for the country, including the people who are in the repatriate to the country. Also, the minister is a much younger man. He may not be aware, and maybe has never in his life experienced what's being thrown out of the country, because you're not a citizen of that country, feels like. Because there are all sorts of implications. So you just don't and try to please the government that is doing that. Because some of the people who are coming, they've never been to Sierra Leone. Well, let's take the Sierra Leoneans who are coming. Our government for they in the position now, we for simply say, okay, for humanitarian reasons, because on that day, that's what the minister is arguing. He's talking about humanitarian. Because of that, we take them to Puyalan and kind of a country, so we go efficiently and effectively disperse them to the country. That's a noble intention. If that's the case, but then in that case, don't take any money for it. I mean, just say, we will do that. You don't have to pay us for it. Then I can see the human element involved in that. Not to all instances. Like I say, if we are being given $1.5 million to do that, to accept 300 to 400 people from other countries, house them, feed them, stabilize them, to me, that is insulting. Those are not the kind of money we will be so willingly be taken. We value past that. It's like if you do me a favor, I give you 15 cents. There are people, no matter how broke they are, for their self-dignity, they will not accept. They say, thank you very much, Mr. Shillon. Okay? It's about time we start thinking for and put we dignity in line and put value on it. So the minister, the reason why they give, well, that ain't reason. But me not see the humanitarian element here. That argument doesn't persuade me at all. Nor does it make sense where we all would follow American politics. See, say all this motivation of deporting people is as a result of the desire of one man, not America, not Americans, one man, for your own personal hatred of referring to people who are not from here, but one man way in mama be an illegal or an immigrant, in grandpa, in papa na be immigrant, in the second generation where they born in this country, yet he has such venom for people them with whom, or people that will share the same background of him, grandpa and his mama. I'm not persuaded. Just because they get money, we cannot just be bending we respect and dignity for things like that. So then I'm in comment with respect to which in the foreign minister they say. I agree with Lamron Abba for say that is not a persuasive argument at all. You know, the minister has done what he's supposed to, what he thinks he's supposed to do, but I'm not sure there's anything humane by agreeing to accept, because nothing is worse. Because we have people like us are foreigners in a foreign land. Having had children, grandchildren, and all that stuff, for you to just be kicked out of a country, and we can't put ourselves in the place of these people and put money business aside and say, no, if I were, and feel empathy for these people, for say, if we were in that situation, how will we feel? Just because we get the power, we'll go ahead with a man that the whole world disagree with. So what's the matter with us? Even if they say they not give you a visa, not to the end of life. So I don't agree with the minister. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, I don't know how far we people are familiar with the background to this whole issue. You go find out clarify, and for me,
yeah, you're right.
My concern is how do we do things and enter into agreement. Now, if we remember some time ago, the American government gets on lists of countries the way they get partial restriction and total ban. And Sierra Leone being featured in that aspect. So what the minister in a try for talk, it focus, it try for deviate your attention for say, America, they do a lot for we in terms of investment. So if they get constraints, like issue of removing what you will call undocumented immigrants, either people that will not get paper or will not done did it for long. So to enter into that, the United States government get an agreement with Salon. And for me, my concern is any such agreement as specified in our constitution should go to parliament. But I listen to the debates. The minister say they inform parliament. How did they inform parliament? I always insist on procedures. He said he informed parliament using a note verbal. What is a note verbal? Now, diplomatic speak. A note verbal is when you get diplomatic engagement, bilateral, say like one country, either the foreign minister or other people then come, then get meeting to the counterpart in Salon, that minutes of that meeting, and note verbal is not a legal document. It's not even signed. So the note verbal now for show the intention of American government wishing to enter into agreement with Sierra Leone for let Sierra Leone receive third country nationals, although they say most of them from ECOWAS. Now, them people and they, if we get for receive them, right? Now, American government will pay for their flights. But not talk waiting this $1.5 million therefore. The point is, the government tell we say, and the minister tell we say, then find an agency in Sierra Leone called Canva. That's the company. With Canva, nine and get a contract there for handle. Then people here where they bring now country, where they say mostly na ECOWAS citizens them. So the agreement was there's a target figure of 300 people then for be bring where they will bring over a period of 1 year. Then that 1.5 million day, now that amount they go use for house them, provide welfare for them, feed them, and probably onward repatriation to the country. What the government failed to do, or the minister failed to do, that agreement was not presented to Parliament. So you get the agreement between the United States government and the Sierra Leone government on issues relating to international laws and treaties, like how they deal with people the way they repatriate, the human rights aspect. Also, the protection of migrant population. We get IOM, when a United Nations arm, where they deal with that. Then government now go say they select this Canva, when a company, when nobody know who they be in the company. Exactly. Say they get experience in this kind of work. Whereas this now the first time wouldn't ever get this kind of situation. Because all the people that when they repatriate back to Sierra Leone, and the people that are working responsible are IOM, International Office for Migration, when an arm of the UN. So this whole thing about the arrangement where they make, the procedures where they follow, is questionable. Because even an MP raised that in Parliament. The minister said he said the note verbal and a letter. A note verbal and a letter is not an agreement. There should be a legal agreement between the Sierra Leone government and the United States government. We will specify things to do with roles and responsibility, immunity in case of somebody want to take legal action, either against the United States or against the Sierra Leone government. All that they get for them are the agreement, backed by also the agreement with the Sierra Leone government get with this Canva security for provide these services, for look after people who are not Sierra Leone nationals. That is my concern, as I explained so far. I don't know if you are Rob much on this again, based on what I don't explain so.
No, I think it's very detailed, Mr. Mengots. In fact, you know a whole lot more about the detail than I did, because I didn't even know there was an agency wouldn't even appoint or wouldn't give the money to for take care of them people here. But I think the government just get to be careful sometimes. National pride counts for something. Integrity counts for something. Being humane counts for something. We just can't dash all of that aside. So based upon what you are even hearing from you, that money may not have even been given to the government, not just some agency that people like you don't even know of, have never heard of. So all of that, these are things where, if in fact agency was going to be appointed, it would have been nice to know, so get some kind of transparency for know what agency is this, run by Sierra Leonean, and that Sierra Leonean they in connection. No, they'll just know, because it's not something that should be kept secret. But so na me I'm concerned one day, because it's a dreadful thing to be kicked out of a country, being held in detention, and then being taken to a country you're not from. I mean, we have to show some humanity than what you would show. Not your money always for influence with activities. And this thing about you can't just cooperate in anticipation that then we'll give you visa, then we'll do this, then we'll do that. It can't always be that. Sometimes it just has to be on principle, you know? Because we all know, say, this man, na own personal vendetta, now he take on people, not, it don't violate all the laws that I had too. All in deportation, before any kind of power, people were not being deported to other countries where they're not from. No. You know, they always deport you in your country. Instead of that, they can even release you, because they know they ever try for deport. First of all, they deport you without a passport. And I'm not sure all the deportees here, if they all get passport. Before this man kind of power, they don't do that. You have to have a legitimate passport. And you have to be from the country whose passport you are carrying. But now all of that, and foreign minister and the ministry, therefore know more of the details what's happening here. So they just can't compromise everything and just agree to something and start telling people how the country to give you money. We not to instart. We in fact, in all this thing where they talk about the help, I would have liked for Lambra and Abba for ask the minister, since when this man kind of power, what did he do for Salon? The citation we give about what America do, not to America with a question. This is not the man in policy. You know, you not do nothing, you stop USAID, you not believe say any countries like country or other countries don't deserve anything. So you know, can't take credit for things that wouldn't happen before by previous presidents there. So I think that's been the minister has been disingenuous for even cite the thing in there. If I tell you what this man don't do for we now, so they kind of power other than what he did do so. You know, disregard people and rights, you know, and treat people as if they are not humans, as if they are cattle. Yeah. So let me comment on this, sir.
Okay, sir. Let's just hope, say, the minister will do the right thing. This agreement will be tabled in Parliament. The deal will be transparent. We will know who this Canva company and the service will then provide. We come back to again say some of these things that happen at the time we'll get to really come to the tail end. And we notice say this now from notice because the previous program, the issue will deal with. Now, how come a very important bill went through Parliament at the time where the opposition not been doing? Now the opposition don't agree for go back. And what's in the first week, again, just like we'll talk about this agreement to the United States, we may not agree, say, or they may not agree, say, through the advice of the moral guarantor. Say, one, that agreement where they been signed in 2023 between the government of Sierra Leone and the APC party, we'll call an agreement of national unity, should be tabled in Parliament together with the PQA bond, when at the tripartite agreement, and also the last communique with the moral guarantors and then put a deadline so they'll come back. Since APC don't go back in the Parliament, we see then the debate. I think so for concern, say, as a matter of priority, they before don't lay the agreement there before Parliament with the tripartite agreement, because you get a lot of things there for do with preparation for the next election. Because apart from the constitutional review or no sit down stall, There's also issues for dealing with the Public Elections Act, issues for dealing with the Electoral Commission of Sierra Leone, the act, for review them. You got the other acts them where relate to the PPRC, the Political Parties Regulation Commission, with all this way back before Parliament. How are we sure that things will be done for meet up the next election? We'll get barely 2 years. Normally we know say 1 year before the election, now that 10 day, the two parties and go down get a flag bearer, and all people and they do that for jockey for position. No, so we go one clause in the tripartite agreement, we say for reduce public servants, people that will take money from the Consolidated Revenue Fund. What do they mean? If you work for government, even some ministers, when they pay them from that funding, we go and show interest in competing for the presidency. There's a recommendation we say, instead of the 12 months where they for don't resign, let them reduce it to 6 months. So all the things they're pending. Also the issue about the PR system, we're still the hangover we are like the albatross round we neck. The nonsense appear for use. We get issue for dealing with census. And when they do with census, they may also talk about issues to do with the creation of new chiefdom. So where are we heading? What is causing the delay? Is there a conspiracy or a seemingly partnership, unassumed partnership between the two sides of the political divide as to whether we will get an election, we will elect the people them, where we the citizens wish for let them govern we. Also in this agreement, there is also issue about things to do with diaspora rights to vote. There's also issues about independent candidates for presidential election. So where are we heading? We just highlight this. Towards the end of this program, we'll keep monitoring. We'll hopefully say sometime within the next week or two, this agreement go down in a parliament. Parliament will deal with them. And we will need with people there for come back, now discuss this thing, because for once and for all, we now go back to that situation we're going to need another tripartite. So now me comment that for this one. I don't know if you want to add anything. Over to you, sir.
No, sir, I'm good. I'm good. I have nothing to add.
Well, in that case, I think we've done a justice to the broadcast today. And I've been taking a break for celebrate me golden age. And also that the Maui insecurity, you know, as we can say in a Creole, so is itself na soup. But in all honesty, the endorsement, and we hope say now continue for join we and contribute to all the issues that they deal with for make sure so we get proper law, interpretation, enforcement, judicial justice, and parliamentary rulings, approval, and scrutiny. So from sunny Surrey, where they enjoy tropical weather this week, above 30, Nami they say Tata.
And Mohammed Shalom from Raleigh, North Carolina. Good night. Till next week, Sunday.
Yeah,
There
a
is
lot
some-
take time because we get few minutes and we just want to end up.
Well, yeah, not too much time, yeah, because not to 1 or 2 minutes difference. Yeah.
Yeah, we can take them.
Yes, I've asked a question. First of all,
Hello,
I
caller.
want to know, Mr. Yes,
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
yes. My name is Aziz. I'm calling from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Thanks, Mr. Aziz. Thanks for calling.
I want to know the background of Mr. Moana. If he has ever served in any security apart from what he said
I don't phone that one there, Mr. Aziz. Which phone is that?
What?
Okay. No, sorry, because there was some interruption. Go ahead, Mr.
Yes.
Aziz.
Yes, I want to ask Mr. P.K. Moana, has he ever served in any security capacity? That's one. Two, I want to respectfully disagree with Mr. P.K. Moana saying, can I go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to respectfully disagree with Mr. P.K. Moana saying the former president and his Kuruma selected dogs to be his bodyguards. I served the police force since 1990, and I served the former president as a presidential guard. Former President Ahmed Jan Kabah as a presidential guard. And there has always been close protection officers. So bringing an SPS when we already have a state protection unit in Sierra Leone comprising of military officers and police officers as well, is it not a conflict? I will actually prefer if there is a way for me and Mr. P.K. Moana to have, a session in your program.
All right. That will be subject to management's decision, but we can have you on the program, I believe, to come.
Yes.
If you, we may be able to invite you, but again, that's subject to management's decision. But yeah. So, I mean, can you
Do you want my full name and phone number?
Yeah, call VOS, the VOS line, and give you name and number. I don't have it handy, but I think it's available.
Mr. Chilon, can I suggest something?
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Yeah.
I hope the caller they listen. Since Mr. P.K. Moana don't say, this bill has not received presidential assent. I would suggest that once it's received presidential assent, we know it's in the bill day, right? And even when it comes to you ask about Mr. P.K. Moana and qualification, there is a qualification criteria in the bill. So once you get them confirmed, we can call you as somebody we don't work in that services day for like give a critique of an existing law. I think that would be a very good way for handle the situation.
More productive, huh?
Well, a suggestion. Since it not become an act yet, it's a bill and we did discuss them. I think it's very important for viewers and other people that we don't know, for make we able to get like a friendly discussion, ask questions. So before the president signs and go say, una go review and una go do this, una go do that. But if we wait it become an act, then it's like beating a dead horse. That's one.
Well, I mean, okay. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Two, from the submission why I read Mr. P.K. Moana make, then already this presidential accent not into this bill yet. But they already don't begin the training process, I will say. They have gone through the selection, interviews, everything. So it's like, it's a rubber stamp. So if I make we discuss this, why would they get recruitment we will not get them as a lawyer? I think, no, just get a friendly discussion. It's just my suggestion. Or I can come
well, that's good. Management will review and will take a decision since they are saying no car waste on them. Because what you're asking for, the way I look at, is a right to reply based on your own personal experience. I'll be very much discussed on Silky. They will bring you in.
All right. You gave me number.
So just send your number to. We'll get a WhatsApp number. I don't know if
number.
You get them.
Okay, sure. I will send them. Okay.
Okay, we WhatsApp number here. Now this number.
Which days they
send us a message. Then the project team go sit down. We'll consider that. We'll go engage you outside privately and see how we will get you, because this platform will entertain the views of every Sierra Leonean based on personal experience and empirical evidence.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, sir. Mr. Sir will take your number from the production team. They will get in touch with you. Then I will be the liaison of this one because I may initiate this one, and then we'll make a decision.
I serve President Momo, I serve President Kaba as a presidential guard, and I work in a state house there when Anes Baikoma is president, and the current IG. No disrespect to Ram when it comes to service as senior forum, but you know.
Okay, sir. Yeah. Don't worry. I'll liaise with you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much.
All right, sir.
Okay, I will do that.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Mr. Kagbo. Mr. Kagbo.
Mama Salon, we like you.
Welcome to VOS Social Media Review, your weekly platform for insightful discussion, bold analysis, and the stories shaping our society. Join lawyer Shilon and engineer Mengat every Sunday at 8 p.m. Sierra Leone time, streaming live on all VOS social media platforms. Stay informed, stay engaged, stay connected with VOS.
Mama Salon, we like you.
Welcome to VOS Social Media Review, your weekly platform for insightful discussion, bold analysis, and the stories shaping our society. Join lawyer Shilon and engineer Mengat every Sunday at 8 p.m. Sierra Leone time, streaming live on all VOS social media platforms. Stay informed, stay engaged, stay connected with VOS.
We like